A perspective now from a country that sees the Russian threat on its doorstep. Jānis Garasons is the state secretary for the Ministry of Defense in Latvia. He was in Ottawa recently and joined me in the studio. First, can you describe for me now the level of threat that you see?
Well, I think the level of threat has not changed since 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea and the war in eastern Ukraine. We've seen, I think, evaluation of different activities, and not only military. The military exercise and military development around our borders actually been quite steady, growing, and we have to realize that. Apart of that, I think we've seen also different kind of hybrid activities. That for Baltic countries, I think nothing new, because we've been subject to Russian influence for 25 years.
So when you say hybrid activities, what kinds of things do you mean?
Well, it's what I mean is information warfare, psychological operations, cyber operations, and I think what changed is that the other countries now experience the same things.
Like the United States?
Yes, but I think the positive thing on that development is that we also took actions, which not only military, but including, but they are very important. I think deployment of EFP battalions, where we're very appreciative of Canadian leadership, and I can only praise your officers and soldiers. You have to be proud of them. Because we are.
What kind of a difference do you think those troops, the Canadian troops and other NATO troops, have made?
Well, I think first of all, there are several things what we have to mention. The first, that is, of course, military value of that force, because a part of our own forces, what we developing very intensively right now for self-defense, that adds serious capabilities to our forces. Another thing, of course, is solidarity, which is, I think, is important when it comes to demonstrating to our neighbors that NATO is serious and NATO will be NATO engage. But I think what another very important issue, what we have not realized probably at the beginning, that with all those outreach activities, what Canadians and other soldiers are doing in Latvia, going to schools, to different kind of social engagements, they actually are the best ambassadors of Canada and the best ambassadors of NATO, because people see, and that counters Russian narrative that NATO is something hostile.
You said, you mentioned before that you've sort of increased your own efforts, sort of beyond the military sort of response. Tell me a bit about that.
Well, what we've done so far, because of growing defense budget, we actually invested a lot in our own military capabilities, and actually we had this August the biggest ever our national military exercise, where 10,000 soldiers were raised. But what we realized that we need to look into resilience of whole population and whole society, because I don't see how we can resist to some kind of growing outside influence if we will not strengthen resilience of people.
How do you do that?
Well, I think what is we had quite a long discussion on that, and also what is clear, we have to make sure that people feel secure. Because when you're a subject, for example, of psychological operations, the aim is to increase insecurity, and that people feel insecure, they're threatened. But you can basically deal with those issues if you increasing your people's awareness of what are their functions, basically even increasing their beliefs in country and values, what they actually living in. Therefore, that is a complex of events and measures, including civil defenses, and also we the government and the parliament took decision to introduce also some curriculum in schools, basically focusing on statehood, on resilience, on local history, but also in ability and understanding how to react in crisis situations.
What more are you looking for from countries like Canada and other NATO allies?
Well, I think the first thing we very pleased with the level of current engagement, and we hope that it will continue. What else? I think what the most important thing is awareness. And that goes not only about awareness of the threats in the Baltic region, but I think it's also awareness of those threats that democratic countries like Canada facing from in foreign influence.
What do you worry about most?
Well, I think I worry about that kind of awareness might be again lost, because if you compare situation, let's say in 2014, I would say we were careless because we didn't turn much attention of what is going on when we believed, and because of a lack of awareness, that we actually were in situation where we were in 2014, and now I think the level of awareness is much more high everywhere, and that is very important to keep and work with those things like what I referred as hybrid influences, and actually to defend our societies, because we have to defend our values.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.